You know, the first presidential debate of 2024 is airing on CNN on Thursday, but already it's mired in controversy after you-know-who's campaign press secretary was yanked from the network this morning. Take a look.
President Trump is knowingly going into a hostile environment on this very network, on CNN, with debate moderators who have made their opinions about him very well known over the past 8 years and their biased coverage of him.
My colleagues, Jake Tapper and Dana Bash, have acquitted themselves as professionals as they have covered campaigns and interviewed candidates from all sides of the aisle. I'll also say that if you talk to analysts of debates previous, that if you're attacking the moderators, you're usually losing. What do you expect from Joe Biden?
Well, first of all, it takes someone 5 minutes to Google Jake Tapper, Donald Trump, to see that Jake Tapper has consistently frequently likened President Trump to Adolf Hitler.
Ma'am, I'm going to stop this interview if you continue to attack my colleagues. I would like to talk about Joe Biden and Donald Trump, who you work for.
I am stating facts that your colleagues have stated in the past.
Okay.
Now, as
I'm
for
sorry,
this
guys.
debate,
We're going to come back out to the panel. Caroline, thank you very much for your time.
That was so good. So good. In a statement afterwards, this young lady claimed her, quote, on-air snub proves that you-know-who will not be treated fairly in the upcoming debate. Now, do you think this is going to make people doubt whether CNN can stay objective, or is this more the same of everybody's against me, it's all rigged, I tell you. Is everything rigged?
No, it's their MO. That's what they do. Rachel Maddow said last week, she's like, if the election is lost, it was rigged. If there's a debate, then the moderators are probably biased and they're prejudiced against me. This is how they tee up even things they end up doing well at. They say, I'm going to lose just in case. This is problem just in case. But the second part is being in live TV for so long and working on it. You can't take an interview whichever direction you want. When you have guests on air, and it doesn't always have to be as heated, it could be completely irrelevant, and you'll see producers going, wrap it up. You're here for a topic. She was brought on to discuss debate prep for the presidential debates on Thursday. When you start to veer into other things, anyone's going to get cut off. That's just how it works.
No, and kudos to Casey Hunt, and who's a friend and colleague of Anna and mine at CNN, for getting it back on the rails. But to me, it underscored a stunning lack of message discipline. You are a campaign spokesperson.
Hang on. That's a bald-faced lie. I've been doing TV. That's just a lie. You don't cut people off like that. See how this is a 10-minute on The View. This is how worried they are. We talked about this in the 5 o'clock show, but I got to hammer this, that it's not acceptable. That is the topic. What do you mean going off topic? It's a debate prep. This is about the moderators. It's not that you're losing. She laid out a factual case, and Cassie Hunt either ought to apologize or be removed. President Trump, under no circumstances, should show up Thursday, my recommendation, to this. It's totally rigged. They showed you right there how it's rigged. They got control, and they dumped her. They didn't cut her mic off. They dumped her. It's never happened to a presidential press secretary. And we got to start. The only thing these people understand is reciprocity. If it's not reciprocity, they don't understand it. It's not going to stop. The lawfare is not going to stop. The weaponization of your government's not going to stop. The weaponization of the media is not going to stop. None of it's going to stop unless you stop it. More people are going to go bankrupt. More people are going to be deplatformed. More people are going to go to jail. More destruction of our country until you stop it. One way we can stop it right now, Trump's bailing out CNN. This is the greatest financial windfall. Does the Trump campaign going to participate in any of the massive advertising spending that CNN's going to get all week? He's saving the network. For what reason is beyond me, but he's saving the network. He's saving the network. If he says, I'm not doing it for you, Biden, you can't, he's not a draw. That's what they do, all these small events. He's not a draw. He doesn't play the big rooms. Trump plays the big rooms. Trump's a headliner. He plays the big rooms. Biden is a lounge act. The only reason this is a big deal is Trump. The only thing people are coming in to see is Trump. They can't let fake news Jake Tapper, Trump hater, have the controls. Ben Harnwell, your observations on this, brother, because you're a media warrior. We're going to talk about this is one of the things that you're seeing, this reaction in France. The revolt in France that you see, and it is a revolt, to wit, the Financial Times of London, front page is how they're all, the whole country, particularly young people, are flocking to Le Pen because of they like her financial plan and economics. That's the reason she lost the last two times she ran. They're looking for any excuse to support her. And one of the reasons you're seeing it so intense is that the media has covered up the reality of the invasion in France for decades and the collapse of French culture. This is why people are so heated. And you see that all day long, this is nothing but a walk back and a spin on this. We had Caroline on the morning show. This is huge. President Trump, it should be an apology and the turning over of there's no control of the mic. You stand up there. It's 90 minutes. He doesn't get Biden doesn't get 2 toilet breaks. Get him a big Depends. Give him the industrial size Depends and some loose pants and set him up there. Ben Harnwell, your thoughts and observations, brother.
Good afternoon, Steve. Well, I agree with you on the CNN point. It's a mystery to me. And, I'm not even sure this debate is going to go ahead because Joe Biden's clearly not going to pass his drugs test. So perhaps the whole thing is moot. The question I want to know is will this criterion be enforced by the Trump campaign? I think they're absolutely correct to insist on this. Donald Trump, of course, has pushed on this. Let's hope that the campaign follows through and insists. Because if it does, this debate's not taking place. But you're absolutely right. Why has he agreed to this? Why is he bailing CNN out? We remember a year ago, was it Chris Licht, who was ejected by CNN because he had the temerity to suggest, couldn't we perhaps be a little bit more balanced in our editorial coverage? They got rid of him. Impartiality is not what CNN is about. It's not what the people who work for CNN want. And they made that absolutely clear a year ago. So the whole thing's a charade. I think you're absolutely right. He shouldn't do it. He shouldn't do it on so many levels. But there we go. But regarding France, and these things are all related, right? Regarding France, which you asked about, I came across an interesting statistic in my research on this election. In the European elections over between the 6th and the 9th of June, France has, I think, 35,000 different communes, like in America has sort of 3,100 and something counties. Right, France is divided. Its smallest administrative unit is the commune. 35,000, right, communes. In the European elections, Steve, Marine Le Pen, her party, the National Rally, they came first. 93% of those counties. That's astonishing, right? Up in the north.
Hold it. Hang on. Whoa. Hang on. Of the 32,000 administrative units, they came in first in 93%. Is this why Macron felt he must call because it was such an overwhelming blowout that he must call, which he's being criticized for now, that he must call he must dissolve parliament and call a national election?
I think he did it because he is that out of touch. Since the day he did it, since the hour he did it, the commentators have been speculating and cycled through one motivation after another. And of course, they change according to the day of the week. I think he just did it because he was out of touch, and he believed, as does the whole of the entirety of the French political establishment. They believe that Marine Le Pen is far right because they've decreed it, they've pronounced it, they've sentenced it. They have said she is far right, and thus she is far right. Of course, she's not far right. This is the point. But they believe their own BS. They're high on their own supply in that regard. And because of that, you see the evidence of that. They completely misjudged the mood of the country. Let me go back to that statistic, right? 35,000 communes. The National Rally came first in 93% of them. And it reminds me of the electoral map, not by county by county. in 2016 after Trump won, which was like a sea of red. And in the same way, in France, they have the metropolitan areas. The Macron, the left, have the conventional centre right. They have the traditional metropolitan centres. But the whole of the not only the whole of the country and the poor areas of the country. Here's another statistic which I think really sort of draws a very strong parallel line with the United States. Up in the deindustrialized north, right, the Rust Belt, France's Rust Belt, Marine Le Pen she was bagging 7 times the vote numbers of Macron, of the government. 7 times she was pulling in that vote. There's an absolute thirst and hunger, you see, for a non-establishment party that is prepared to listen to the people. And that, I didn't get to comment on what Raheem was saying earlier on in the morning show. But again, it's the same thing in the UK. You have a Tory party in the UK that, because of our electoral system, and we've mentioned this on the show quite a few times, how the first past the post really cuts out the possibility of new views be entering into the system through the elected means, because they simply can't get, first past the post, they can't get anywhere near that threshold. And therefore, the debate on the direction of the party takes place within the parties. Like in the Tory party, you have the Tory Reform Group, the One Nation Conservatives, the Conservative Group for Europe, both of which I was a part of 25 years ago in a different political lifetime. And then on the right, you have things like the Bruges Group. That's where the debate takes place within the system. And it's not. This is why the Tory party, right, is heading towards what psephologists, professional pollsters are calling an extinction event. These monolithic monocultures have no idea how to cope with something that they never expected to happen, which was an attack on the right. That's why you have these two. It's like East and West Germany facing one another. You have the Labour Party and the Tory Party, and they face one another, and that's where the battle is. The rear flank towards the right is totally empty, and they don't know how to cope with Nigel Farage, who's charismatic, credible, who's trusted by the public, who sweeps in, talking about the one issue that the entire political establishment is incapable of addressing, which is immigration. And that is the one subject that the British people actually want to discuss. So you have these commonalities, as you were saying in the morning show. And I think they're just sort of repeating one another, reinforcing one another, because it's all part of the same trend.
It's the same thing, the same issues, basically. But even more importantly, Nigel Farage, the Uniparty ganged up on him on this weekend there about he's a Russian asset. Because he takes the MAGA line. His line in Ukraine is virtually no different than our line, or very low differences. Now you've got, and we've warned about this, the lead story in the Daily Mail is about Russia has now called in the U.S. ambassador to say there's going to be a retaliation against the United States because of Ukraine, Zelensky using U.S. weapon systems that I think people feel there may be even U.S. people in Ukraine guiding them to hit inside of Russian territory, including what they still claim. They claim Crimea is theirs. This thing's escalating, but you see the way the Uniparty attacks. The Uniparty's attacking Nigel Farage for being, a Russian buddy, Putin's buddy, instead of taking the information and just kind of looking through the range of alternatives. Raheem told me over the weekend that because of the control of the media in both France and particularly the UK, that the alternative that we've brought up on the show for 2 years, Ben, and you've been being our editor in Rome, you've been the lead sled dog on this, that it's not even discussed. That Raheem said, hey, the British people really don't know how to handle it because all they've been fed is Boris Johnson, Churchill, Boris Johnson, Churchill, Munich. They don't even really how to understand this. This is slipping now to a dangerous place because the Russians are saying, hey, we're just not going to let the Americans fund and arm the Ukrainians with their weapon systems, maybe even their technicians, and hit into our territory, kill our people. They're saying kill our children. and not have retaliation? Ben Harnwell.
Look, just to go on the bombing with the ATACMS, the US supplied ATACMS missiles in Crimea. Yeah, it's escalatory and it's dangerous and it's stupid and it's shunting the world ever closer to World War III. There is, however, I think, an ontological difference between using, as I say, I'm obviously not endorsing this, but there is an ontological difference, I think, I would suggest, between Ukraine using these US supplied missiles in Crimea, as opposed to, for example, bombing Moscow. We said this on the show so many times, there isn't really a war room type outfit in continental Europe. Not really even in the UK, obviously, it's all English language. So you have the debate, which, the war room posse is fluent with terms like John Mearsheimer, right? His Primrose Path. How many times have we been talking about that over the last 2.5 years? So there is an awareness a very strong awareness of the other side of the argument. And what you were attributing to Raheem over the weekend is absolutely right. There's the British people are so far because all they've been force-fed is the official propaganda. They really don't know how to handle the contrary argument. And I know this, right? Like when I'm talking to my own folks. You get the same thing. It's like a blank. It's worse than a blank expression. It's like, my God, are you a cuckoo? I mean, have you lost the plot when you start straying from the Zelensky as the second coming of Winston Churchill narrative? Because there's been no priming of this. There's been no preparation. But there is. There is a thirst. It's more strong here in Italy than in the UK. But I've wanted to see for 2.5 years the British people faced with the alternative argument. They're going to get it now. The point about the official lies is that they don't stand up to interrogation, which is why you see the debate being shut down, for example, on CNN. Now that Nigel Farage has dragged this issue front and centre, I'd like to see how the British establishment actually deal with the issues that he's raising. It's going to be interesting.
Remember, the original Deep State was taught. This is how strong culture is in civilization. MI5 and MI6 are the original Deep State. The British control, the British influence throughout the world because of the remnants of the empire and what they learned in the empire is just stunning. And they think our CIA and FBI are like junior varsity compared to what they do. Before I let you go, I got to talk about France. There's a revolution going on in France, much the same issues, but it's young people, and now they're talking about how they love that headline on the Financial Times. I'm going to frame it. It's stunning to say that the French people are coming to the right wing and supporting their economics. Right now, young people particularly are waking up for the suppression of really having a debate in France to take. This is a civilizational struggle in France. This is just not simply a typical vote, even at a parliamentary level. There's something quite deep going on in France. And for those of us that have worked with the Front National guys in the National Rally and have been big supporters of Le Pen and not just Marine, but Marshall, the whole team over there and others, it is now finally what we've talked about for years, that there's been a great awakening inside a nation that thinks their civilization is higher than anybody. Ben Harnwell.
Steve, let's just look at those figures. 25% of the French people say they had most confidence in Marine Le Pen's National Rally to take the correct decisions on economic issues. That contrasts with only 20% from Emmanuel Macron's alliance. And they've lost, the establishment have lost their most important pillar, I think, of credibility when they lose the confidence of the people in terms of the management of the economy. This is something, you said for years, that the adults in the room, are absolutely, they're distinguishable for their incompetence. They sit there, they go to all the right schools, they have perfectly combed hair, They speak in exactly the perfect way, and their shirts are perfect. You know, they're fantastic. They present themselves fantastically. They're functionally idiots, though. All they know how to do is repeat platitudes with a significant degree of authority. That's their only shtick. Repeating platitudes with authority. When it actually comes to management, these people could not be more incompetent. And they only had to basically deliver the minimals to keep people on board. People aren't by nature revolutionary. They become revolutionary when they've got nothing else to lose. And that is where our sociopathic overlords have driven people to. Now, they've driven them to a revolutionary frame of mind because they have nothing left to lose, because our sociopathic overlords have not delivered on the basic essentials that people are looking for. And because we are living in pseudo-democracies, people will fight back, and they are fighting back at the ballot box. And we see this. That's why it's going to be the substantial issue beneath all of this. I close at this point, is the immigration issue. That issue is not going away. And therefore, the driving factor, the motor behind the populist nationalist resurgence we see right across the world, that is only going to grow stronger, because our elected establishments are incapable. They are conceptually disarmed. They have conceptually disarmed themselves from being able to deal with it. Coming back to the UK, you can't even have the conversation in the UK amongst the establishment political parties and talk about immigration, because you'll be framed as a racist. So you have the political class has conceptually disarmed itself from being able to discuss the number one issue of burning interest to the people, and that's only going to end in one direction, which we're going to see on July the 4th. And as I say, it's going to be, this is a revolutionary movement now.
Ben, where do people go to get your content? We'll have you back on again tomorrow. This is, and the wag the dog situation between Ukraine, Russia, and now the United States. Folks, we told you they're going to either try to steal us, or they're going to do a wag the dog, or de-Trumpify the second term. But the wag the dog is quite big, and we got to be all over it. Where do people go to get your content, Ben? Because you have the best engagement I've ever seen in social media.
Thanks, Steve. I'm going to post the links of all the articles I was talking today. You'll get those by following me on Getter at Harnwell, which is my surname, but also on the Rumble feed, where I post the links in the show notes on the Rumble feed. I'm also going to put an article in to, seeing as you mentioned Ukraine, there's an article up today saying how they're reduced now to drafting in women to the front lines. Which just basically shows you that as the Ukrainian situation is starting to collapse and implode, the forces behind the two alternatives that you just mentioned are only going to increase up until November, when hopefully there'll be a total change of situation.
I think Professor Mersheimer is looking smarter and smarter every day. A very wise man. Ben Harnwell, thank you very much. I'm going to have you back on about the female situation, because it's all part of a bigger issue. Thank you, brother.
Thanks, Steve. God bless.
Birchgold.com. Turbulence. You ain't seen nothing yet, folks. And I'm talking about even when President Trump wins. The deep state are going to sit there and go, this is terrific. MAGA's 50% plus one vote, and Trump and MAGA are in charge. No. Trust me on this. The fight is going to be every day is going to be like Stalingrad. Turbulence, you're going to have plenty of it. The way you hedge against turbulence is precious metals. Don't take it from me. We give you the macro. You need to talk the micro economics of it with Philip Patrick. Go to birchgold.com/Bannon. You get totally free, as all our content is. All the content of the worm. None of it's put behind a paywall. It's all out there. It's ubiquitous, and it's at scale. Because we want to make sure you have tools for every different smart vertical or vertical you need to know in the modern world. Birchgold.com/Bannon. You get to Philip Patrick and the team. You get all the information. Just go check it out. Talk to them about their tax-deferred instruments and so much more. So just go talk to Philip Patrick and the team today. But do it today. Don't hesitate. Do it today. Particularly if you're thinking about retirement, do it today. Jackie Toboroff is a fire breather. Jackie, here's the reason, and you've dropped this bombshell piece I got to get into because it's quite disturbing. But what I saw, and I was able to watch, The rally in Bronx, I call it the White Boy Summer, with AOC and the congressman, and particularly Bernie Sanders, was disturbing enough. But what I saw in Los Angeles in that section, I think it's over by the CBS studios, off was it Highland Avenue over in it's a large Jewish community. Man, oh man, I don't think we have time to play it. But the violence I saw the weekend, and the police kind of protecting the bad guys and leaving the young Jewish kids out there to be exposed. And violence and nastiness and meanness that I've never seen. I mean, you got to go back maybe to the riots of Watts and the Rodney King to see this. We got a minute here. I'm holding you through. Tell me about this weekend. Quite disturbing. From New York to Los Angeles, just the Sharia supremacists are all over, are they not, ma'am?
The Sharia supremacists are all over, but quite frankly, it's really hard to feel badly for Jews. 80% of American Jews vote Democrat. It's as if they have Stockholm syndrome. And hopefully this is going to wake them up. President Trump is offering them a lifeline. Will they take it?
But why? I tell you what. Why don't we hold? I want to have you have some runway on this, because it's a disturbing piece, and if you're not Jewish, Jackie gets into the details because something's going on. I got to tell you, this violence. First off, AOC, and I don't know how Bernie Sanders stood on the stage with that. The guy running for Congress, Bowman, is, I mean, he's beyond an anti-Semite, and the crowd there, which I didn't see a lot of minorities. Very disturbing. And then what happened in Los Angeles with this violence is just terrible. So anyway, birchgold.com. The turbulence is going to only increase and get more. In a times of turbulence, you need a hedge. This has been for 5,000 years of man's recorded history. Why has gold been that hedge? Why is it a better hedge now? It looks like it's ever been. And you look at the arbitrage or the spread between the plummeting purchasing power of the dollar because of this massive federal spending and precious metals, and why the BRICS nations are buying it at volume. birchgold.com/Bannon.
All this nonsense, all this spin, they can't handle the truth.
War Room Battleground with Stephen K. Bannon.
Okay, Jackie, hit rewind and go back to because you're on the show a lot. You're very controversial. You're one of the moms that are trying to clean up New York. You're defending kids. You're out there to make sure everybody of every ethnicity, race, whatever, gets a fair shake. This piece today was very disturbing about how you just lay out mathematically the case with the increasing violence, particularly on the college campuses now in the streets of the city. People can't even take off a weekend, or you can't even have a synagogue or a synagogue school unless you get these madmen outside yelling at the kids and trying to cause harm. But you make a case that, hey, until the American Jewish community wakes up, it's going to continue. And I keep saying these things are not going to stop until you stop it. You have to stop it. And you're making the case that they're actually voting for their enemies, I guess, is the way you put it, ma'am?
Yeah, it's as if Jewish people have Stockholm syndrome. 80% of American Jews vote Democrat. The Democrat Party is aligned with Nazis, fascists. They support illegals, BLM, and now the Islamic rape machine. So it is very difficult as a Jewish woman to continue to listen to these people whine about academia, which is owned by the left. You bring up the word struggle session, or the phrase struggle session. Bill Ackman is in a struggle session. Sheryl Sandberg just went on record to say that she is voting for and has donated to Biden post October 7, which naturally, as a Jewish woman, it horrifies her. Shai Davide, who's a professor at Columbia, who has had his you-know-what ripped out from him, also seemingly cannot cross that Rubicon. He cannot say, we've got to stop how we're voting. If these people cannot come to Jesus and wrap their heads around the reality that they have stuck us here, it's hard to listen to the whining about everything else.
So here's what I don't get. Rumor has it the Jewish community is pretty smart. This is what I don't. Is it emotional? Is it because of family affiliation? Is it because of situations they were in Europe? Is it some sort of mindset? Is it because certain of these people are not as religious as others and maybe go to the school for secular ideas? I mean, this is what Christians, I think, particularly Christians who are either Christian Zionists or strongly support Israel, in the Jewish people as we do here in the War Room and have close affiliations to the Holy Land. We don't, because most of these Jews that vote against things are also don't seem like they have Israel's back. And it's very confusing for Catholics and Christians to understand when it looks to us pretty straightforward that a big percentage, and not just percentage, so many of the prominent people. I hate to say that the 20% that support or the 30% that support President Trump and Republicans are essentially look like Jewish MAGA or the Jewish deplorables, but that the prominent people and the wealthy people and quite frankly, the credentialed and smart people continue to vote against their interests. So why is that?
Well, I'm not a therapist, but I think it's a pretty easy read. I think it's because of the Holocaust. After the Holocaust, the Jews naturally felt abandoned by God, and they distanced themselves from God. By the way, we saw this happen to the Black community. When you take God away, everything falls apart. So after the Holocaust, the few Jews that survived, that made it to America, and the Jews that were here, they assimilated, they contributed, they never took welfare. This is against Jewish principle. Jews, as you say, high IQ, hard workers. And, they became more and more secular. Was this to compartmentalize trauma? Maybe. Was this because they wanted to fit in and rid themselves of those, Jewish tropes? Maybe. Did they want to seem polite and fit into society? Maybe. Whatever the reason is, they became more secular. They abandoned religion. And many of them, look, if you look at Soros, if you look at Zuckerberg, these are not Jewish people. There is good news. If you look at the recent Siena poll, it's actually favoring Trump to Biden 53% to 44%. It seems like Jews are waking up. The question is, though, is it too little too late? I mean, how do you put the toothpaste back in the toothpaste jar? It's going to take a lot right now. Jews have to stop donating to academia, which hates them. Jews have to stop donating to Jewish charities like HIAS. Why is that? Because these charities are Democrat aligned, whether they're promoting climate or LGBTQ or illegals, which hurt Jews. It's upending the Judeo-Christian ethos, which upends Jews.
When you're in New York, you're in Manhattan, when you're there and you're a firebrand, I mean, people should know Jackie ain't shy. And you're making these cases to people that are secular or progressive Jews. What feedback do you get?
I mean, I talk about this all the time, and truthfully, I think people have a hard time. Again, now they're coming over. They might vote Trump or they might not vote at all. No, that's not good enough. We need people like Bill Ackman to say, I'm voting for Trump. You need to vote for Trump. Again, he's throwing us the lifeline. Are Jews going to take this lifeline or not? Tomorrow is the 25th. It's a primary between anti-Semite, anti-white, anti-American Jamal Bowman and, quite frankly, a pretty terrible candidate, Latimer. It's irrelevant. You have to give the you-know-what to Bowman, send him a message, and vote Latimer. Then we have November 5th. There's no more discussion. It's Trump or nothing. That's it.
By the way, and I think I'll talk to Grace and the team. I want to put up the clips from that rally. It were disturbing. And man, I don't know, Bernie Sanders. I don't know how you get on the same stage with the Congress guy, Bauman. That is a guy that is beyond an anti-Semite, and the way he conducted himself in front of that crowd was shocking. It's kind of hard to shock me. Jackie, where do people go? We've got it up on War Room. Where do people go to get this really amazing piece and, quite frankly, a profile and courage that you put it up? Because you're not backing off. You say, "Hey, look, you don't have any choice. And I don't want to hear any happy talk." You walk through the math, you walk through the analysis. So where do people go to get it?
You can please go to my Substack, which is called Supermoms Activated, and you can also follow me on Instagram at Jacqueline for NYC. That is JACQUELINEFORNYC. I will say this again to the Jews: you've got one option. It is Trump or shut up.
Jackie, up in your face, Toboroff. She will never back down. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
American hero and patriot. That's a patriot right there. We turned this thing around because of people like Jackie. So, Judge Gableman, this morning I had Mark Paoletto on, about the Supreme Court, and the Wall Street Journal published a magnificent piece by Paoletto in defense of Associate Justice Thomas and the Supreme Court. But the Wall Street Journal, and I think it was Saturday's edition, did their own, and this is a power move, did their own essay in their op-ed section. And literally, it was, let's beat down Judge Gableman. And I said, oh, my Lord, I haven't seen something like this in a long time. Why is Murdoch and the Wall Street Journal beating on you, sir? First off, for your defense of the stolen election in Wisconsin in 2020, but now about the whole Robin Vos thing. You have triggered Paul Gigot in the editorial board over there. So how did you do it? And what is your defense, sir?
The Wall Street Journal article is a piece of garbage, Steve. It's just a piece of garbage that superficially hits me, but it's really done to attack President Trump and others who support him. I say this because the Wall Street Journal had the presumption to read into my mind various motivations. They say that I'm upset because the legislature, Robin Vos in particular, did not decertify the 2020 election. That's news to me, because I haven't even made up my own mind. It's not my place to decide decertification. That's Robin Vos and the rest of the legislature's call. So they used me as a convenient tool to try to discredit the Trump supporters. And the lie, the absolute lie that is contained within that Wall Street Journal garbage editorial is the fact that my investigation revealed no evidence of a stolen 2020 election. And I am now more convinced than ever that it was stolen here in Wisconsin. We had, as you know, Steve, and as you're listening.
Hang on. I got to stop this because this is so important. And I want everybody, in particular the media that follows this closely, I'm going to do two things. In the Wall Street Journal, which Murdoch, and hey, folks, it came out over the weekend. I don't believe in coincidences. Karl Rove's doing the whiteboard on Fox News saying Trump can't win because of the conviction when they know that the sentencing is going to even explode more. So they're prepping the battlefield for the convention. And they come out with this thing on Gableman. Judge Gableman, I just want to pull back for a second. We got 10 minutes. I'm going to let you. They do two things. Number one, they say Gableman has no proof whatsoever of that the election was stolen in 2020. The first part. That's the first part of Gableman. Then they say he's had no business at all as part of this recall of Robin Vos, and this is totally wrong. Vos is a hero. Gableman's the villain. So let's take the first part. You've been more fair. You've been more fair than anybody I've ever seen about the 2020. When the Wall Street Journal says you have no proof and that you wasted $1 million and Vos called you out, you personally wasted $1 million of the taxpayer of Wisconsin's money on a wild goose chase. What is your response to that, sir?
Well, my response is, again, the Wall Street Journal garbage editorial has another lie. My entire budget was about $600,000, and we wound up returning money. There was money that was necessary to fend off the lawfare. So the Wall Street Journal is trying to protect Robin Vos because Robin Vos created this outfit called the Wisconsin Elections Commission, which many of your listeners outside of Wisconsin and even some in Wisconsin are wondering, well, what the hell is that? That sounds like a bureaucratic entity that doesn't really matter. When in fact it controls the procedures and processes of elections, all elections in Wisconsin. And as everyone knows, Wisconsin is pivotal to the 2024 race. And so Robin Vos created and controls, I believe, to a large extent, this elections commission, which fostered a lot of the fraud and a lot of the steal in 2020. And they did it in a number of different ways. They kept the Green Party candidate, illegally kept the Green Party candidate off the ballot in 2020. The reason why they did that is naked partisan politics, that when she ran, her name is Jill Stein, and when she ran in 2016, she took away about 16,000 votes from Hillary Clinton. And now they wanted to make sure that didn't happen again. And so Jill Stein, the Elections Commission, kept her off. We also have an indefensibly negligent control. There is no control process over the election. And all of this is coming at this moment, Steve. You said earlier that you don't believe in coincidences. The reason for this garbage lying Wall Street Journal editorial is all to protect Robin Vos. Robin, we gathered in the recall petition over 9,000 signatures. We turned them all in on May 28th. Now, in the first recall effort, it took the Elections Commission. Remember, they're out to protect Robin Vos. It took the Elections Commission less than 5 hours a couple of months ago to tell the press, hey, the recall doesn't have enough valid signatures. We went through all 10,000. We've done this preliminary review, and they don't have enough. Well, here we are. Tomorrow will be a month. Tomorrow will be a month since we turned the signatures in, over 9,000 of them, and not a peep has been heard publicly from the Elections Commission. We know, because we had to protect ourselves in this second effort from the sabotage, probably from Robin or someone acting on Robin's behalf, which we reported to the FBI. I went with the recall organizers to the Milwaukee field office of the FBI, met with the FBI agents for over 2 hours, giving names and telephone numbers, addresses, copies of driver's licenses of the people who were collecting signatures. And so far, I don't believe any follow-up has taken place. So the Wall Street Journal is trying to allow the Elections Commission to act in secret. And I'm asking all of your viewers to contact the recall effort so that we can give you information about who to contact and how to contact the Elections Commission to get them to announce publicly what we all know to be the truth, that we have enough valid signatures and that the recall election must and should go forward in the first week, in the last week of July, because the Elections Commission is meeting later this week on Thursday. And if they do the same thing, this is the same outfit that keeps over 7 million names on our voter rolls here in Wisconsin when we only have about 4.5 million eligible voters. They do that knowing that a lot of the names on the voter rolls are names of people who've died and have moved permanently from the state. Why do you do that? Why would you purposely keep an inaccurate voter roll with extra names in storage? Why would you allow a system that illegally allows people to steal military absentee ballots? In other words, anyone, you, me, anyone listening or watching this, Steve, could go online and request a Wisconsin military absentee ballot. And I'm going to say this because I said it for 3 hours in a court hearing the day before the last election in front of a judge who simply didn't have the courage to tell WEC, to tell the Elections Commission to follow the law. Anyone within the sound of my voice can go online and make up a name and state that they are a military serviceman or servicewoman and obtain an absentee ballot from the Elections Commission. The same goes if they don't feel like stealing the valor of military service people. Well, then they can just say they're a temporary foreign resident, that they're a Wisconsin citizen. Again, they can make up a name, make up an address. They can make up as many names as they want, as many different addresses, and have them as many different home addresses, but all have them sent to one P.O. box or one abandoned building or wherever they want to collect it, and then harvest and then fraudulently fill out as many absentee ballots as they want. It's pathetic. And Steve, first of all, I had a few moments before we went on to observe the iconography on your mantelpiece, and it reminds me to thank God that we can still have this kind of conversation, because I think if Biden is declared the winner in 2024, it won't be too long. We just read in the headlines the other day that the Federal Department of so-called Justice was putting on an enemies list or a watch list Trump supporters. We saw the Ministry of Truth that Biden wanted to put in place. You and I, we both know that there's a price to be paid for fighting against the Uniparty. Robin Voss is part of the Uniparty. Created this fraudulent
we have to bounce, but I just want to because now I think you've got our audience. Let me just ask you, because Wisconsin's key. Whichever way Wisconsin goes, probably the nation goes. And it's been so tight in 16 when I ran things, and then in 20 on both sides. I mean, remember, Paul Ryan waved us off on the Sunday before the election because he said his numbers were we were going to lose by 3 to 5%. And of course, as we won, barely. It was tight. It was very tight. Same with Biden in 2020. What you're laying out is something that I think scares people to the core of their being for 2024. Forget the Robin Voss thing now. Are you saying that most of this is still going to be as out of control as just late? Is there anything can be done between now and Election Day that can sort these massive issues out in Wisconsin, sir?
The two primary motivations for my involvement in the recall, I know you said forget the recall, but that's what's Robin Voss, unless Robin Voss is removed, I do not believe that Donald Trump will be declared the winner of Wisconsin in 2024, no matter what happens. Why do I say that? Because Robin has been protecting the administrator, Megan Wolf of the Elections Commission, who handed over control of the Wisconsin election to the Zuckerberg operatives who were putting in place David Plouffe's plan to beat Donald Trump. And they were able to embed, that's their word from their plans, embed their political operatives in the 5 largest cities in Wisconsin. Unless Robin Voss is removed from office, and unless Megan is removed from her position, and Robin is the only one who can control that. We must remove Robin if we have any chance of getting an honest election.
I need to have you back tomorrow. So my team's going to work with you right now. This is too explosive, too big. Judge Gableman, until then, what's your social media? Or are you still not on social media?
I'm going to fix that, but I would ask people who are interested in this, interested in helping out, to please write in to Racine, RACINE, recall at gmail.com. Racine recall at gmail.com. And we will reach out to you and let you know how you.
Yeah, we've got to bounce, but we'll get it up. We'll have you back on tomorrow. Judge Gableman, incredible. Lou Dobbs is next. We're back at 10 a.m. tomorrow morning. Go to birchgold, birchgold.com/Bannon, end of the dollar empire. Check it out. Dobbs next. We're back at 10 a.m. We'll see you in the war room.